All right, welcome to the webinar. Tonight's session is titled Mastering the Interactive Charts. And what we're going to focus on is probably the most popular feature on the GuruFocus site, and that is obviously the interactive charts. Now, the reason these are so popular is because for the first time, fundamental value-based investors have the ability to view their information visually, right? Typically, most stock charting packages are restricted to technical indicators, which are all based on time and price, right? So you're looking at your MACDs and your stochastics and moving averages. But what GuruFocus has done is brought in the ability to plot all the fundamental data, so the revenue and earnings and book values and price to sales ratios, because research has shown that a lot of people learn better visually, right? There's typically a few different types of learners out there. Some might just read it, some might see it visually, some prefer to study spreadsheets and see the numbers, but more people learn visually than any other way. So that's why the interactive charts exist, right? It is by far the most powerful charting software available out there. There are over 200 plottable fundamental metrics you can overlay onto the chart. It's going to display 30+ years of data. So typically the fundamental data that you would find on the financial statements goes back 30 years, and then the stock history can go back even further. And you can use this on any publicly traded company, because any publicly traded company has to file their quarterly and annual financials, and we have access to all that information. So we've added a few new features to this. It's been an integral part of the site for many years, but we thought it was about time to show you guys what's changed, some of the new features that you may find helpful. So here are a few of them. We'll go through each of these both as a quick overview and also look at them live, but there are 30+ years of data now that will show up on the interactive chart. Previously it was only 10 years. With a single click, you can highlight recessionary periods, and this is really important, especially if you're looking at 10, 20, 30 years of data. When you see dips in earnings or dips in revenue or big spikes or depreciation or depletions in valuation metrics, you'll see, oh, that was during the recession of 08, or that was during the 2000, 2001 tech crash, right? Industry medians. This is really important because no matter what fundamental metric you're looking at, you can compare it to the average for the rest of the industry, right? So price to sales figures are going to be very different for a retailer than they would a tech company. Bar charts was recently added, so now some of this information you can plot as a bar chart or kind of a vertical histogram. Trend lines have been added as well. Now these are automatically calculated based on the data and kind of give you a quick and dirty look at the trend of whatever metric you're following. You can export to Excel. So the information that is plotted on the chart, if you get in the habit of using these interactive charts to view, even stuff like the income statement, the balance sheet, you can, with one click, export all that data into an Excel file or a CV file. There's also an image grab feature. So if at any point you think, oh, I need to save this one, look back at it later, I want to put it in my research file, whatever, click image grab, save you an image, print it out, set it on your computer, any number of ways to manipulate that. There are also customized series now in the interactive chart. So just like in the all-in-one screener we looked at before, how you can now create your own screener parameters, you can do the same thing on the chart and plot that information. And then there are even technical indicators, right? So this is the several of the most common technical indicators for those traders and investors who tend to not follow fundamentals and just invest based off price action. So let's look at each one of these really quickly. This is obviously highlighting the 30 years of data. Okay, so as you see here, this is Goodyear Tire, and this is the income statement chart. So we're showing revenue, gross profit, operating income, net income, all the way back to 1987. Now it's at 30+ years of data because the stock data goes back even further. So if you click on all, notice the blue is the stock chart of Goodyear. And it goes all the way back to the early 70s. You're talking about, 30, 40 plus years of data here. You can obviously adjust that really quickly by just clicking on the dates to the time period you want to see. Now, if you look at the gray vertical lines there, those are recessionary periods. And we'll look at how to pull that up, but it's literally just one checkbox, and it's immediately going to highlight major U.S. recessions. Okay, and that's, like I said, it's kind of a crucial thing when you're looking at data. I'm sitting here at Goodyear Tire thinking, all right, it was, stock was doing decent from 2005, then it crashes here, and oh, that's the 0809 recession. Now, this is the industry median feature. So the line in blue is Goodyear's price to sales ratio going back, 17 years or so. And, you quickly see this thing stays, around 0.25, right? The low end is 0.1 or so. The high end is, 0.5. And the red line, we just click industry median, is going to show us what other automotive companies, where they were at that time. So, we see here that for much of the last decade and a half, Goodyear has traded slightly below the industry median price to sales ratio, and today it's right there about on par. You'll see these little boxes that has the information. As you hover your mouse over the chart, that will move to show you where that data was at the time on the chart you are focusing on. Now, these are the bar charts. So again, just another way to view the data, right? This is Goodyear's revenue for the last 20 years, and it just shows each, instead of making a point at the top of each of these bars connecting with a line, it's sort of a histogram, a bar chart. It's just another way to view that data. But some people prefer this, especially for things like this that are very simple. You don't get it confused with a stock chart. And this is a trend line. So this is Apple's PE ratio for the last decade. And the blue line is the computer-generated trend line. So all it does is use an algorithm to plot a line there showing the basic trend over the full time period. So, if you adjusted this to a 5-year chart, that trend line is going to move. Or a 1-year chart, it's probably going to be trending upward. All right, but if we're looking at the last decade, this has been the trend of Apple's PE ratio. So it's, become a much cheaper stock as the company matured, for the most part. Now, this is what it looks like with the export to Excel feature. Obviously, it's a lot of data, but we looked at, we had on the chart Apple's PE ratio, its rev, its net income, its gross profit, and its dividend yield, and then it exports all this data going back the last 30 years. So obviously, this is not that attractive to look at as a standalone, but if you're a Power Excel user and want to take that data, manipulate it in another way, this is a nice, easy way to do that. And to access those things, if you look at that red arrow in the top right, you'll see there where it says Excel, just to the right of the dates. By clicking that, it will automatically download an Excel file of all the data on your chart. And then the Save Image button is right there as well. So if you like your chart, you want to look at this later, save an image, rename it, or leave it as is. Now, I mentioned being able to build your own customized series, and as I mentioned, we did this in the all-in-one screener, and it functions exactly the same. So at the bottom of the left side panel on the interactive charts, at the very bottom, as I've circled there in red, it says Customize Series, Build Your Own Series. Just like everything with this website, it's very searchable. Just kind of start typing. We'll look at how to do that, but it's very, very simple, and you can add your own custom touches. And finally, we have added technical indicators for those, more price action based traders. What you're seeing here is Goodyear over the last 30 years with couple of Bollinger Bands overlaid on the top, and a MACD, which stands for Moving Average Convergence Divergence, down there at the bottom. So let's see this in action. Let's take a look at how these function live. So let me get this out of the way here. First, I'm going to reset this. Let's just start with a new chart. We'll use Apple. It's always a nice, easy chart to use. And, you know, the interactive charts are very easy to access. All you'll do is start typing the ticker in, as I did, and go down to select interactive chart. If you're already on another page, say you're on the 30-year financials, it is one of the tabs right across the top. You'll see it right there on any individual stock tab. And so by default, it's just going to show you the price of the security going back as far as there's data. All right, so in Apple's case, if you look up here at the dates, we've got December of 1980 up until today, June 28th, 2017. So 37 years of stock price data. If you're out there kicking yourself thinking, man, I could have bought this stock for 30 cents a share, yeah, you're not alone. But let's just kind of start overlaying some things to show you how the basics work, right? So the first thing to know is over here on the left is where you're going to add each feature you want. Now, they're categorized in several groups. This is the most popular based on what most people are using, so you can overlay the NASDAQ and the S&P to see how it's performed, revenue, net income, PE, et cetera, et cetera. And then they're grouped in the same capacity that we group things in the all-in-one screener below that. So we have valuation and quality, where you're going to find you know, price to free cash flow, earning enterprise value to EBITDA, right? Those kind of metrics. We've got all of our income statement items. These are just each of the line items you'll find on an income statement you can plot on this chart. Same thing with the balance sheet and the cash flow statement. Each one of those line items that you would see in the financials, you can plot on this chart. We also have some broader-based economic indicators, and these are going to be more big-picture type items. So, you know, retail and food services, sales, unemployment rates, that kind of thing. And then here are the customized series, and we'll go over that in just a moment. And then finally, we cap it off with the technical indicators. So, you know, if you want to put, let's say, an exponential moving average on here, you know, 50-period EMA, check the box, and then it's immediately overlaid onto the stock chart. You can see that better on a tighter time frame here. Okay. So really all it takes is a single check of a box to add something. Unchecking it will remove it. And it's the same for any metric on here. Check it to add it. Uncheck to remove it. And you can easily add multiples on here as well. Okay. So that's the basics of how to add metrics to our chart. Now, a couple of the changes we've seen are focused right across the top of the chart, and if you look, you may not be able to see it on your screen, but when you go on the website, you'll see these little check boxes right here. Okay, and there's a couple of things. One is percent change. So instead of seeing it as a price, you can see, okay, you know, what percent is Apple up or down over a certain period. This is percent year over year, pretty self-explanatory. You can check the log box. It's going to change it to a logarithmic scale. Here is the check to add the U.S. recessions, industry median, converting to bar chart, and then applying trend lines. And each one of these that you check will apply to every metric on the chart. So, for instance, let's add the PE ratio to Apple. Okay, so we've got two things going on in this chart, right? Green is the price, see currently about 145 a share. The blue is the PE ratio, which a year ago was down here at 11. Today it's at 16.5. Now, Let me back this chart up so we can show you some of these features. Now, for the U.S. recessions, click the box and immediately highlights recessionary periods. Go back even further, you can see here we have 02 following the dot-com bubble. We have the 1990 pullback in the markets, and then we have obviously the 08-09 depression. When you add the industry median, that is going to show you where the metric lies based on the rest of the industry they compete in. So in Apple's case, it's computer hardware. As we see here, the stock used to trade at a multiple much higher than the industry, and today it's about near the average. At the end of the year, it was calculated at 13, and we're at about 16.5. Now, logarithmic scales obviously going to move things. You'll notice the numbers was 10, 20, 40, 100, 200. So it just adjusts the scale that you're viewing the information. And then percent change. Watch the numbers on the right. Right now it's giving a price. If we click percent change, it's showing us what percentage the stock has moved. So if you bought it, back here at this price is $20, you'd be up almost 800% today. Now, let's look at the trend lines. If we drew the PE ratio of Apple, and I'm going to remove the price just to make it easier, all we do is check the trend line box, and it's going to just generate a quick trend line of where this metric is headed. Now, Apple last 10 years, PE ratio has trended lower. However, if we look at 3 years, it's about flat, and for the last 1 year, it's been trending higher. So just know that that is going to change. It's a trend of the data you are displaying, not a full 30 years. You're just seeing the end state of that. And finally, we can use the bar chart feature just the same. So click that. We're immediately seeing the PE ratio. In Apple's case, it's configuring this thing every day. But if you used a metric like revenue, we've got up here we have annual data checked. If we check quarterly, it's going to show us the revenue each quarterly. But it's just a really nice way to display that information. For certain metrics, it lays out a lot nicer. So any questions about any of the quick change, kind of one-click options we've added at the top? I think they're really powerful, especially the industry median, in my opinion, and being able to plot recessions. It's just too tough to know or to remember where every sector generally trades, right? So telecoms may be trading right now at 13 times earnings, whereas I don't know, data security could be trading at 17, 18, 20 times earnings. So the ability to just immediately throw the industry median and see where it lies compared to its competitors is an extremely valuable tool. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. And I want to show you how to add a customized series. So over here at the bottom left is where you'll create that. All right, and so all you have to do, click build your own series, is start typing. Okay, so one formula that comes to mind is like Buffett's owner earnings, right? He defined owner earnings as net income, adding back in depreciation and amortization, and subtracting out capital expenditures. So first thing will be net income, right? We literally just start typing, and notice how it plots. It's just like when you search Google and it starts filling this thing in by yourself. So we select net income, and then it's literally just basic math symbols, plus, minus, use an asterisk for multiplied by, and a right slash for divided by. So net income, we want to add back in depreciation and amortization. I'll do plus DEPR. Notice it just immediately comes up. Okay, no need to put a space in there, no need to put a dot or a period or anything crazy. Just plot it and then use your next math symbol. Then we're going to subtract out capital expenditures. So capital expenditure. So then we've got what we need. Next step, we're going to name it. And then where do we want this to plot? So obviously, let's see, we're going to choose option 3 for revenue net income type figure. Hit finish. And we now have our new indicator. One check, and boom, it's on the chart. I'll get rid of some of this other stuff so you can see it. That's it. We've created an owner earnings metric. Now it might be in the drop downs already. I'm just using this as an example. We've created a metric. We can plot it on our chart, and it's going to stay there in our customized series. So any future chart, we can always use this and add it on. Now, I did get a question about the tutorial tab, which is above the chart all the way to the right. If you go to the tutorial, it's going to bring you to a manual. And this is something that Charlie Tian, the creator of GuruFocus, wrote. And it walks you through the basics of the interactive charts. And this was created, I think, before some of these upgrades. Looks like, well, no, late last year. So it should be up to date. But it'll walk you through, kind of give you a crash course like we're doing today. All right, so that's how to add a custom series here. Now, like a lot of things, we have predefined sets built into the site. Okay, so if you look on the left side of the screen toward the top, you'll see this here in a drop-down menu, Predefined Charts. Now, if you build one, you want to come back and think, oh, this is great. This is, you know, Ross's super duper double secret stock chart. Just click Save Current Settings, name it, and you can have it as a predefined chart going forward. It'll always be there. Let's look at a couple of the options here. And these tend to be the most popular based on how we see the site being used. First, the Peter Lynch chart. This is obviously very famous. It plots a theoretical price line at a 15 PE, so 15 times earnings. Lynch, back in the 80s when he was running the Magellan Fund, obviously it was much easier back then, but he would just simply look for, you know, quality blue chip stocks. They're trading well below their earnings line. He'd look at a buy. They're trading well above it. He might hold off. And so, you know, you see a stock like Apple that is actually traded pretty closely to this line, and you know, you could have made some pretty good money buying when it was cheap or below the line. Whoops. And selling anytime, you know, the stock exceeded that line. But Peter Lynch chart, pretty self-explanatory. We also have price to sales valuation bands. Now, these are nice because it shows the max and min range for a stock, okay? So the top line is Apple at its maximum price to sales ratio. Over this period, whatever you have plotted, whether it's 1 year, 10 years, 30 years, it's going to find what's the highest price to sales ratio the stock's traded at in that time and what's the lowest ratio it's traded at. And so it creates these channels or these bands, and you can immediately see, you know, am I on the cheap side or am I on the expensive side? Let's try a different metric. Well, let's say try a different stock. Let's look at a retailer. So yeah, we're seeing even wider divergence there. It's Bed Bath & Beyond. They're very, very cheap today, currently trading at the lowest valuation. But anyway, some of these are going to look tighter. Some of them will vary further. It really just depends on the stock and the time period you're looking at. Let's tighten that up a little. So you notice if we when we look at 30 years of data, look how wide that is, because the thing's traded as low as 0.2. Price sales, low as 0.2, and it's been as high as 7.2. So huge range here between $8 a share and $2.90. Well, that doesn't tell us much. But if we look at the last 5 years, that gives us a much better picture. Right? It's traded between 2 and 4.5 times sales. So immediately here, if we just want a quick and dirty price to sales valuation, we say, well, 90 would be crazy historically cheap. 183 would be getting a little scared. We're right about in the middle, maybe just above the midpoint. So a decent time to buy this, not a great time to buy it, right? But if this thing were trading $90, $100, $110 a share, we know that's historically cheap. And where I've found this to be the most useful, I'll give you guys a free hint, something that used to work, is the stock Amazon. Historically traded right at 2 times sales. And I'll prove that to you in a second if I can. So this is one of the nice features. If you want to see where would the stock be at 2 times sales or 3 times sales, whatever, you input those here. So price to sales of 2. Check the box. And that's what Amazon did. All right, I'll show you up until like a year ago. Let me adjust these dates. So up till, let's say, the beginning of 2016, I mean, look how well that stock followed that 2 times sales line. And that's going all the way back to 1997 when this thing was hemorrhaging cash. But that's where Amazon has always been valued, right? You look at a stock for value investors, Amazon has been a frustration case because they traded 200, 300 times earnings. It's absurd because what the company does is take their profits, invest them in research and development, and use them to grow their empire, for lack of a better word. And today, 51 cents of every dollar spent online anywhere is spent at Amazon. And that's why Bezos is one of the top 3 richest guys in the world. That's why this company has a market cap approaching $1 trillion. But this is how the stock was valued. It was 2 times sales. So, historically, you could have very quickly come in knowing this and said, that's kind of pricey, that's cheap, that's pricey, that's cheap, right? And valued the stock pretty well, or at least known when was a decent time to buy. Now, today, it's gone haywire above this, I think, because now they're getting revenue from cloud services and other information and other sources, and it's just pushed this metric through the roof. But nonetheless, we can see where it would be a value or a deal to us. And in this case, it's 40% below current prices. But by throwing on these price to sales valuation bands, we really quickly see, where is Amazon trading based on this metric in its 10-year range. And as we see, it's very, very pricey. Today's price is actually the highest price to sales ratio Amazon has ever traded at, or at least in the last 10 to 15 years. So this would give me pause if I'm an Amazon buyer and I know how much this company is valued based on this metric. I know I want to be here in the lower half of our range, so call it 250 to, let's say, 550, or even 600. And I'm going to be a little iffy on the upper range, and we're all the way at the top right here today at roughly $1,000 a share. Now you can combine a couple of things and actually throw a trend line in here. Kind of smooth some of those out if you wanted to. All right, that's price to sales valuation bands. I think this is really powerful for retailers and other stocks. The income statement is another one. We're going to immediately plot the main income statement metrics here. Income, total revenue, operating income, net income, gross profit. And again, you can go back. Well, Amazon's a bad example, obviously. Let's look at General Electric. We know they've got a lot of history. You see that we've got the data going back 30 years, here to 1987. The stock data we have goes all the way back to 1971. So if you want to kind of cut that to there, all you do is adjust your start date. So here's the drop down. Select 1987. Just call it January 1st. And then here we have the last 30 years. You can even remove the stock price. This is what's great about this. So instead of staring at, line by line by line of financials, we can see it much more clearly here. Right? This is a much easier interpretation of General Electric's income statement. And we see since 2010, that's been kind of in a downtrend. And you can do this like any other for any range. You can adjust between annual and quarterly data to get a more precise chart. But like I said, really nice way of plotting this information visually. It's just easier for a lot of people to grasp and interpret in a visual sense. With a couple of the predefined charts, the balance sheet is going to be the same as the income statement, just with the balance sheet numbers, right? You're looking at cash, PP&E, debt, assets, equity, etc. Now, this is a popular one. This is gross domestic product, gross national product. So you can kind of see where, we lie as a country. Now, the dividend yield, again, a nice, easy way to look at where the stock trades compared to its history. So let's look at 15 years of General Electric's dividends. Now we're seeing the spike. I think, man, what happened there? Oh, that was the recession. What happened? The stock price got hammered, which drove the dividend yield higher because they kept paying a dividend, and so it was a much higher percentage of the stock price. This is also a good one to use something like the bar chart feature. Well, maybe this one isn't the best because, see, the thing is it throws up a bar every time this figure is calculated, and something like dividend yield is going to be calculated on a daily basis based on the stock price. So this one, I apologize, is incorrect. It's not the best metric for it. But if you're looking at something like revenue or net income, those are going to be much better metrics to use the bar chart for. And how much easier is that to see, what's this company done revenue and profit-wise over the last, 5 years? How much easier is that to quickly see than looking at the financials? Price and revenue, is a quick and dirty look. Hey, where's the stock price go, based on how much the company brings in the door. In General Electric's case, revenue has been steadily climbing, and the price has been actually kind of flat. Look back a little further. We see a different trend, don't we? Now, this is a Peter Lynch chart with estimates, so what all this means is it adds expectations, analyst earnings expectations over to the right, and kind of plots where that price would be there. Peter Lynch charts regular earnings. And then CTAS, I'm not sure. I might have created that one. Might be a mistake. I'm not sure. But those are the predefined charts. And then again, like I mentioned, if you find a set of settings that you like, let's reset all of these. Let's just say you want to compare it to the NASDAQ and the S&P for the last 10 years, and you want to see it as a percentage change. We can save this. So let's make this one index comparison. Hit save. And then we can go to another stock. So we're looking at GE now. Let's go to Apple. And then now, in our predefined charts here, we have one we created, index comparison. And it's immediately going to bring up how the stock did compared to the S&P and compared to the NASDAQ index. And go back to percent change if we want to see it that way. Look at that, Apple's up 800% while the indexes are up, 60%, 186. Now yours could be anything. It's just a quick example of how to create your own predefined chart there. So any questions about that on the predefined charts, how to throw those up, how to make your own? If you have suggestions, we're obviously open to those, but we try to put the most popular stuff in here. All right, let's continue. I'll show you the Excel function. Let me add some more metrics on here just to get a lot. Add the PE ratio. We'll add the net income figure. We'll add the company's enterprise value. So the chart's getting kind of dirty, right? Getting pretty jumbled. Lots of plots going on here. Lots of data. We would throw the industry medians in there to really make it confusing. Okay, but this is all the information you want. You've got it here on your chart. And again, as you hover over, you'll see where all those numbers lie at various points in time. Okay, but all you have to do is click this Excel button up here in the top right. And it's going to download this file for you. It's got all those figures we wanted to see. This might be the one from yesterday. Now you may see this warning. It could be corrupted. Trust me, it's safe. If you want to open it anyway, just hit yes. And then there's all that information we plotted. Notice it starts here at 1980, and this thing scrolls and scrolls and scrolls all the way to present day. Okay, so it's a lot of data. But if you're a power user and you like to manipulate this information, it's a great feature. Save image, same thing. Just click that image right there. Now the embed feature is if you have a blog or a website, you want to put this chart there without screenshotting it at all. You can click the embed option, and what that will do is create this code for you, and you'd simply copy and paste it, and paste that into the HTML of your website or your blog, and it would automatically put this chart up. Not only would it automatically put the chart up, it will be clickable, so people can click that chart and come right here to this page on the website. All right, now most of this should be pretty self-explanatory. Technical indicators are maybe the only thing that you may not be used to. There's lots of information online about these. I don't put a lot of stock into them, except to know that other people do, and so that's where it becomes important, right? Like I don't care what the moving average is, but I know if a stock is pushing through its 50, 100, 200, period moving averages all at the same time. All these technicians out there are seeing that, and so the simple buying pressure from them could help propel the stock, or could be a catalyst to push the stock higher. So that's the only reason I'd really use these, but you could be different. So the top ones are overlays across the top, so it's going to be your Bollinger Bands, which we looked at, simple and exponential moving averages, and then Keltner channels. And you can adjust the input metrics here in this box to the right. Let me bring this chart in a little tighter so we can actually see what these look like. There's the Keltner channels. For Apple, the green is the stock price, and then the red and the blue are those upper and lower bands, and then it's got a exponential moving average in the middle. So top are overlays. The bottom has labeled indicators. Those things are going to be plotted below the chart. Okay, so that's your MACD, that's your relative strength index, the money flow index, etc. You want to see this is a 14-period RSI. Click the check box, and it should, unless I'm overdoing this thing with broadcasting, it should plot right here on the chart. Sorry about that. I think I'm getting a little glitch in my internet. I'm broadcasting this. Just sucking a lot of bandwidth. So go back to our technicals. Throw a MACD on here. There it is. So it plots right there. Notice below the price action. And just like anything else, you'll see this box you hover over that will show you the reading at that point in time. Hey, Michael. Yes, this is being recorded, and for anyone who wasn't here in the beginning, all of these tutorials are available on the GuruFocus YouTube channel, so you can always access previous sessions. Literally, just go to YouTube and search GuruFocus. And that's a little slow at the moment, but yeah, we keep all those up and archived. But for the most part, that is the interactive chart. As I said before, it's one of the most popular features. I think it's the most powerful feature on the website, just because of how much easier it is to plot the stuff. And there's no one else that has this. No one else has this capability available for retail investors to plot the fundamental things that are going to drive our interest in equities. Now, another thing you can do, we talked about the price to sales ratio bands here as a predefined chart. There's one more you can input, and we'll give you kind of a median if you want. Notice on the left side, the boxes that have been checked are the price at the max price to sales ratio and price at the minimum price to sales ratio. Well, in between is the median price to sales. So if you would like to kind of get you a middle line there, just check that box, and it'll lay one out, and you'll quickly see if we're trading above or below that median level. Good question. Any other questions about the interactive charts? Can you switch between two? Yeah, so up here in the top right, it's a good question. You know, one thing you may run into is you may plot a bunch of things on here and think, oh, that looks great. What does you know, Verizon look like with this, or what is some other equity? And so without having to change everything, you can simply go up here to switch ticker, put in the ticker symbol, click go, and it'll bring you right back here as a different stock. Any other questions? All right, well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us on this webinar. Again, this will be archived on the GuruFocus YouTube channel. If you have other questions, comments, concerns, or a particular feature of the website you'd like us to hold a training webinar on, please feel free to email us, support@gurufocus.com. We thank you all for coming. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and happy investing.